welcome to the Underground Society podcast.
Hello. It's good to be here. It's good to be on the other end of this.
Right. For those of you who don't know, this is our audio engineer. We brought him on the team in January. I think it was January, right?
Yeah, January.
It's been a fun year. Why we ended up doing this was because we had someone drop out this week, and I was gonna not put out an episode, but asked him, and we kind of figured it out, and we were doing our first in-person one. So hope everyone enjoys. But we're gonna dive into a little bit of his project first, and then talk about how he joined Underground Society and kind of some of our struggles that we went through with the podcast. So. First of all, personal project. Get me started on like how you even got introduced to like music and like why you decided to become an artist yourself.
So I started out listening to people like San Holo, W&W. I think that's their name.
Big Room.
Yeah, Big Room. So I listened to a lot of that kind of stuff. Who else is another good one? What's his name? Dude that throws cake into the audience.
Oh, Aoki.
Steve Aoki, yeah. So started out listening to a lot of those kind of people in like 2014. And then I went to my first rave in 2018. I wouldn't even hardly call it a rave. It was like this super tiny club. I went and saw Drolo. So saw Drolo, and I was like, yo, this is super sick. Then my cousin asked me to go to Snails in Chico. So Went to Snails, had a blast at that rave, and I've just loved it ever since. So,
yeah, you're the first person I think that I became friends with that was like a true trance head too. And I think that's like a common ground that we connected on.
Yeah, I do love my trance, my deep house. I know a lot of people, especially in this scene, like the dubstep scene and all that, are not huge fans of
Definitely
it.
Definitely not. It's very hit or miss.
Yeah. I listen to it on the daily, honestly.
Yeah, I listen to trance every single day.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So give me the story of like how you came up with like your name, because I know there's a kind of a deep backstory of that.
I got my artist name Anvbis from when I did DMT. So we can either tell the full story or we can just keep it short. And basically, I saw Anvbis on DMT. And then I'm not super familiar with like the proper terminology of like the scales when the feather and the heart, but heart weighed down on the scale, and Anvbis kicked me out. And then I woke up, and all I could say was, what the fuck? And after that, I was out of it for a few days. I was so confused with what just happened. But after that, it kind of hit me. I was like, because I was listening to Zonderling while I was on the trip, and that just kept like looping over and over in my head. I was like, I really feel like I'm meant to make music. Like, I feel like that's like my purpose.
So you weren't even producing music when that happened.
I was producing music at that time, but like that was kind of like the time that was like where I found the name for like my project, because I didn't have a name before that. Like, I was just making music.
Yep.
I've been making music for like 3 years now, coming up on 3 years.
I think since you've moved out to the Bay Area with me, you've really made some huge leaps and bounds.
Yeah. It's definitely been an interesting experience moving out here to the Bay. I mean, living in Sacramento, that was kind of like a little introduction to, because I didn't live in Sacramento before. Mm-hmm. Like, I grew up in Corning, small town. Nobody really knows about it, but grew up there like all my life out in the middle of nowhere. And then moved out to Sacramento. That was kind of like a little bit of a shock to like how different like just the lifestyle is. And then moved back over there, and then coming out to the Bay Area, that was just like a huge shock compared to Sacramento.
It's a much different place.
Yeah.
Drivers are different. The weather's slightly different.
Just like daily life in general, it's way busier out here. So like that was tough to get used to. But once I got used to that, I started getting to know everybody out in the scene and just making all these connections and just doing what I can to get my name out there.
You've done a phenomenal job at that. You've made more connect. I mean, we've been out here pretty much the same amount of time, and I think all the friends that I've made have been through you. So
I mean that's like kind of what I got really good at, especially when I first moved out to Sacramento. I got into real estate, and then that's kind of how that sprouted.
Yeah.
That was like,
Just got
I used to be
good
a
at networking.
huge introvert.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't get in front of a camera.
I didn't know
wouldn't
you
talk
then,
to
so I've
people.
always, like,
yeah.
I don't even, that doesn't even like make sense to me.
you don't see that version. Like I wouldn't come out of my room. I would shut my door. I would lock it, and I would stay in my room all day. Yeah.
We've kind of switched roles almost, because I feel like the older I've gotten and the more focused I've gotten on my career, I've become more of an introvert. Like I'm more of a homebody. I'm more of like, I just want to stay home, and like my peace of mind comes when I'm just like, you know, hanging out at home, smoking, watching TV. Like I love that. And I used to be like, go out all the time, network with everyone. And I've switched. And then it's funny because you've done almost the opposite of that.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because like it comes in waves. Like at this time, I'm kind of like okay with just like not going out all the time. Like at the beginning of the year, 100%. I was like, oh, this is all new to me. Like I gotta go out and do everything. But yeah, that was like the fun in it in the beginning, and then like it just becomes a lot. And it's not that I don't regret going out and like meeting all these new people, making friends. I'm super grateful for all of that, 100%. But then there comes to a time when it's like, okay, there's a lot going on around me. I need to take a step back, do my own thing, and then I can go back out and start hanging out with everyone again. But like I said, it comes in waves.
So with producing, what were a lot of your like tools that you've used to like learn how to become a better producer, how to become a better DJ? And I mean, this is trial and error from a lot of it, but like what have you, education wise, what have you done for yourself to learn?
Obviously starting out, tons of trial and error. But for the things that you can do to like go out and search for information and do better, what I did was I joined some Patreons. I started interacting with all these bigger artists that were putting out all of this not free information, like whatever their price is per month. But I pay like $15 a month for Infect's masterclass through his Patreon. And I've learned a ton from him. Yeah, from you
joining that, your music sounds like way better now.
So that, and like I got lessons from Resurrect. I would just hit up artists on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever I made that connection with them, and I'd just be like, hey, do you do lessons? I'd shoot them whatever their price is, anywhere from like $30 to $100 for an hour. So I would do that. I'd just sit there with an hour. I'd have a bunch of questions, and I'd just soak in whatever I could. And I mean, I'll still do that, but I don't feel like I need it as much. At this point. It's more of just finding my sound and just more trial and error. More trial and error.
Just rinse, recycle, repeat.
Yep.
Awesome. I think we should dive into kind of how we met, because we haven't really talked about that yet. And it kind of just happened one day. You kind of just like fell into my lap as a friend. So we met. I think you reached out to me originally on Facebook. I had already started Underground Society. Was that the reason why you reached out to me, or like what was like your motive for?
So during that time, I know I was heavily into real estate. I was like actually in the middle of selling houses. I had a few in escrow. But my main goal with adding people, and same thing with like what I did out here, is I just talked to as many people as I could. I just like, hey, what do you do? Just make friends. Just make friends. But I knew that you had a connection with Todd. And I was doing the DJ classes through him.
Because I was working with Hastati for a while there when that all happened.
Okay, got it. Yeah,
I was helping Todd out with Hastati for a while, and then what happened? Because we both still lived in like Sacramento area, and then I was planning on moving out here, and then was it Sullivan King or Subtronics that happened?
So it was both.
Yeah,
it was both. We went to. Did we go to Sullivan King? Because I know for sure we went to Subtronics for sure.
Yeah.
We went to Subtronics. You were just like, hey, I was thinking about going to Subtronics, but I don't have anybody to go with. And
I moved out here by myself. I literally lived here alone, and my uncle who owns this house, he was like, hey, like if you want like one roommate, that's fine. And I was like, I don't really have anyone in mind. Like, I'll just full send it by myself.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we were becoming friends, and then the shows came up, and I was like, hey, you want to come out here? And then like go to the show with me, and then you're like, yeah, I'm down, and then we like became really good friends at those shows.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, I think I was just joking, and I was like, "Want to move in?"
I was like, I'm pretty sure he's kidding, but I'm super fucking down.
Yeah.
Like,
And then I was like, "Fucking okay."
Yeah,
So
I was definitely in just like that full send mode. I was
Yeah.
just like, because I was doing really well with real estate, so
Yeah.
I was like, what can go wrong? Like this. I've always wanted to live out in the Bay Area, so we'll just send it.
do it. Yeah. Is there any like regrets from moving out here? I know because like you were doing really well in real estate, and like financially you were doing really well, and I know things kind of changed a little bit when you moved out here.
Yeah, so I asked myself that question a lot.
Yeah.
Like, do I regret it? Hell no.
Yeah.
I don't regret it at all. I have made, even though I lost a lot of progress with real estate and I was doing really well, I made a shit ton of progress with my artist career. So I did attempt to do real estate out here, but then interest rates just skyrocketed, and then there's that language barrier. The language barrier was what really hurt me, because there was open houses out in San Jose that I was holding, and got a lot of people that came in.
Yeah, Hispanic or nationality? What language?
Asian.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Those are complicated languages too.
yeah. So it was just really hard to connect with a lot of the people out here, and I'm okay with that. It just felt like life was pushing me in this direction. Yeah. So I just had to let go of that, and I'm 22. Like I have plenty of time to bring the real estate career back. Like I have the systems all set up. The machine's there. I just got to dust it off whenever I get back to it. But definitely not doing real estate out here, at least at this point.
Crazy hard out here too.
Yeah. I just feel like at this point in my career, like even though I've been in the industry for 3 years, it just wouldn't make sense to just restart, especially in a time like this.
I remember reaching out to you when I was going through, a lot of people don't know this who listen to the podcast, but I paid like $5,000 for this online podcast course, which every penny I spent was well worth it. One of the exercises that the course had me do was ask 12 people to basically get like mock interviewed, and basically like help me with my retargeting of like discovering what my audience wants and what they need, and who even is my audience. So when that happened, when I was doing my mock interviews, I reached out to you because we had just become friends. And we just talked about that before the interview, but basically from the start of that journey and the start of the new direction, you were like there at day one. And I never thought that would progress into you being the editor.
It's come full circle, and it's kind of cool. I totally forgot that even happened until like
we literally just talked about it.
Yeah, you were working on the clip, so I was like, I'll just scroll through my Snapchat memories so I know exactly like what happened throughout the past year. And then that popped up, and I was like, holy shit, I totally forgot about this.
But yeah, man, I mean, we've become super good friends, and I'm so happy that you've joined the team. And I originally, with the podcast course, along with that, I got an editor, but unfortunately that editor lived in South Africa, and he was like $400 a month. And it was a little pricey for me, especially because I just moved out of my parents' house. And at the time I was able to afford it, but I just didn't want to pay that much long term. And I knew he was a music producer. So I was like, dude, I think I don't even know where we were going, but I remember being in the car and I asked you, like, I was like, hey, could you do you think you could do this? And you're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. It was definitely difficult at first when we first started because.
Well, you never edited a podcast before.
Yeah, never edited a podcast. You made
music, but it's a little different editing voices than using like music notes.
Yeah. And I mean, going into it was a huge jump because I had to learn a whole new software, and even though some of the things are that I know in Ableton are transferable into I use Audition. It was still a pretty hefty learning curve. So like the first few episodes were kind of rough, but
I was expecting it though. You got to learn. So,
but we communicated what needed to be done, what needed to be fixed, what could have sounded better, and I feel like we've really
great
nailed
system down now. You know what I expect. You've done how many episodes did we do this year? 47. I think you've done at least 43 of them.
My first,
or maybe even more than that.
My first episode I did was in early February,
late
January.
So it was like 43 episodes you've done so far. Yeah. Time freaking moves, bro. Holy shit.
Especially these past few months with the holidays.
Yeah. Holidays been crazy. Has juggling your workload, I mean, it's only takes you a few hours a week to edit the podcast, but juggling that with music production, with working, has it been a challenge for you to juggle all the things that have been added to your plate?
Yeah, I would say that's honestly probably been my biggest struggle the entire year, because when I first came out here, first started working on the podcast, I was doing real estate full time. I was doing music, and then I started doing the podcast. And then I eventually
Still going out and networking, doing what you need to do as an artist.
Yeah. And I like keeping up social media presence.
Yep.
That's another tough one, is social media. That one.
Yeah, balancing the need to be on social media to grow what we want to do versus like wasting our time on social media. That's, I think both of us have focused a lot on that this year.
Yeah. And then like one thing, like you not going on social media on Sundays, and like
the new rule that I instilled for myself.
Yeah, and I was like, honestly, that's not a bad idea, because like social media just is super draining. So I kind of took that on too.
I've felt now way better now that I've been doing that. I've been feeling way better with like my mental clarity and stuff. It just gives me a day of like break from like, I don't need to look at that. I don't need to focus on putting anything on my story. It's like gives me a day off from it almost. Because a lot of times social media does feel like a job, especially when you're like trying to grow a project.
Yeah. Even when we were, when I was working at the real estate brokerage, because I got the part-time and then the full-time job at a brokerage. So I was a realtor, and I was working their front office, and I had to run their social media in order to get the pay that I wanted. So that was kind of a lot, working on someone else's entire business, building their social media, working on the growth, getting the whole branding down, just nailing everything. Not only doing that, but then for my own project, and then also having to focus on the podcast. And I got to the point where I had to decide which one I wanted to stick with. And I think that's when I was able to just drop real estate for the time being. Not that I completely dropped it. Like I literally just sent out two referrals. So like I still have people coming to me for real estate, and I can still answer questions and stuff, but I'm just not as active.
I also wanted to bring up the you've done it a couple of times, which it happens. We're human, but forgetting to edit like day of, because we were just talking about juggling things, but forgetting to edit day of. I never freak out about that stuff, but I remember there's been a couple of times where I was like, "Bro, it needs to go out at midnight." Like, hurry up.
I know. Like we both have a very similar mindset where we take everything like super seriously, and we're like, even if it doesn't have to be done at midnight, that's like that rule that we set for ourselves. Like we have to get that done.
That's how you stay consistent. That's that's the same thing. I talked a little bit about it in episodes before about competing in bodybuilding. That's really what instilled that in me, was like, I don't have to go to the gym today. I could go tomorrow, right? But I'm going to. And I just that's one of the major things that I've taken into the podcast, and I treat this as a job, and I really appreciate you for taking it as seriously as I do.
You don't find many people like that. No, like, at all. Which is why I'm grateful for just everything that's happened this year. Super grateful for it.
I never thought when I had the idea to move out here, it was kind of just like, I just need to get out of my parents' house, and this was an option to move to, so I took it. But I never thought that this year would turn into anything close to what it did. So
this is the last thing on either of our bingo cards. Right. Well, I mean, going back to that, like the time when I went out to DNA Lounge, a venue out here in SF, and I forgot to edit the episode. I went to see Yaks back-to-back Somnium Sound or something like that. So I went to go see them on a Thursday night, and the episode was not done, and I didn't realize it until I only had like one drink, and then you text me, and I was like, oh fuck, you text me at like what, 10:30, 11, like something pretty close to midnight, and I was like, oh fuck, all right guys, I gotta go.
It's a lot of work that people don't see behind the scenes. For me, I'll go over my duties, and then kind of how you work into that. But having to do the outline, I do a 3-page outline on every single guest that we have on. After that, we go into recording. Then previously, I would content edit. I would take out anything that I didn't want them to say, me to say, whatever, condense the episode a little bit, clean it up, and then I would send it to the sound engineer, which is you, and you would make it all nice and sparkly and presentable to release. But now we've changed into, because with that, the YouTube video and all the clips, all the reels that I post, the sound wasn't the same as the polished episode. So now we record the episode. I send it to you, and then you kind of clean it. You make it sound better. You level it out. I don't know what all you do, but what's your process there?
So when I first started with the podcast, I obviously didn't really know what I was doing with things. Yeah. So I had to watch a few YouTube videos, and then it wasn't really a master class that I got, but it was kind of like a mini master class that kind of taught me what to do. And I just do like some basic compression, EQing. It's like super simple stuff, but it does a whole lot. And I mean, like removing background noise too is another thing.
Yeah, that's huge.
While someone's talking, it's kind of hard, but it's kind of cool with Audition. You can go in there and you can visually see like any like background noise, and you can just wipe it out.
Delete it, yeah. But yeah, then you send it back to me. Then I make the reels. I finish the episode, and then make all the YouTube videos, do all that stuff, and then I send it back to you, or write my script for my voiceovers, record the voiceover, send it back to you. Yeah. And then you finish it, and then we've gotten to that. You know how to upload it now. Originally, you were sending it back, and I would upload it, but now we have a page with show notes that I complete. You take care of the rest of the upload, and then we're done. But that's like a week long, like while we both have full-time jobs, while we both keep up active lifestyle in the gym, while we just have we live life too outside of that. So it's a big thing. I just thank you so much for everything you do. I really appreciate it.
Dude, yeah, and of course, and I appreciate you as well. Yeah, like the amount of work that you do is kind of absurd. Like with all the reels, all the show notes and stuff. It's like
just before this, I spent 2.5 hours on a reel before we got started. So.
Yeah. You're like, all right, 30 minutes and then we'll start. And I was like, okay, later. Cool. Yeah. I'm just sitting downstairs playing Rocket League.
Rocket League's fun though.
It's cool.
I like it. Yeah. So I want to get into basically. Did you ever see yourself working? I know you do streams for yourself, and we've been streaming the new Call of Duty Monday nights. Anyone who wants to tune in, but you used to do streaming, or you still do. You had a YouTube video as well with clips from your gaming. But past that, did you ever see yourself like getting into content creation?
I mean, that's kind of where I first wanted to go.
Okay. Before music?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Before anything, before music, before real estate, I was doing gaming. I was playing tournaments full time. I was getting paid to do that, just online. But I would do that, and I would stream. I would create YouTube videos and stuff. But I deleted everything once. When did I delete everything? I don't even know why I deleted everything, but I just kind of stopped one day.
I feel like looking back at old content is like, it can be cringe for the creator who made it.
Oh, 100%.
Especially as their skills 100%. Get better and stuff. Like, I can't even listen back to my first episode. Like, it's like super cringe.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about this, but I was going through a lot when I started the podcast.
Oh yeah.
And it just. What's the thing that you talk about all the time? We talked about it at the gym earlier. When you smell something, when your senses are engaged.
Anchoring, NLP.
Yes.
Yes. Where were you going with this?
Oh, just saying how like when I listen back to that, because of the sounds and like the songs that I put into that, and like just the process, it brings back too many like bad feelings for me.
Yeah.
So was there anything like that for you or was it just cringe and that's the reason you took it out?
I think I just kind of wanted to leave it behind, but as I got older, I kind of miss it. So I'm starting to bring it back because I was really fucking good at it. I was really fucking good at it. I shouldn't have stopped, but getting back at it, and it's not too bad.
Go into NLP and what that is.
NLP,
I think it's important for people to learn what that is.
I love this subject. It's probably like one of my favorite subjects. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming.
He's smarter than me.
So NLP, the easiest way I can describe it is, we'll go back to what you were talking about, for example, with anchoring. So it's along the same lines, but anchoring, essentially you can So like, let's say something in your past from your childhood, like you remember a certain smell, and it comes back when you smell that same smell like 10, 15 years later. You can do that on purpose.
Yep.
Kind of crazy.
Yep. Yeah, with you were saying how with smell, like you'd use like a boom stick. To put you into like a work mode almost.
Yeah. So a good example of that was when I would do cold calls at my house to get myself into that right mental state. I would light a candle, and it would be that same candle that I smell that gets me into that mental state. And I just had to make sure that I had a really good session the first time I did it. Because if it was a bad session, I wouldn't want to smell that candle again.
Anchored to something good.
But I mean, it's more of like a long-term thing. You can't really just be like, let me just smell this item real quick, and then tomorrow, like I'll be just as good as new. Like it's more of
repetition.
Repetition. Repetition is everything. But yeah, it's a super interesting topic, and I would suggest that you do your own research on it.
Yeah, it does help your success. So, plans for the future, plans for next year. What are some of your goals for your artist project going into next year?
Some of my goals for next year, I definitely want to get on a festival lineup. Don't really care what festival, but I do have a few in mind. So I'm not gonna be like upset if I don't get the festival that I want. But like if I get on a festival, that's a goal of mine. I'm gonna have a Spotify account early on next year, and I really want to hone in on my sound. I'm starting to get it down, but I think that is gonna be what takes things to the next level. That and learning music theory for sure, because I don't know jack shit about music theory. But it's cool because there's a lot of bigger artists that don't know anything about music theory. Like for example, gonna throw him under the bus here, but autocorrect. He was saying he saw the circle of fifths downstairs, and he's like, damn, you got the circle of fifths and everything. I never even knew what a key was when I first started.
Because autocorrect was here. Who else has been in this house?
Crowell was here that same night. Not many other people. I think it was just a few of them.
It was pretty funny. It was like around the time that autocorrect was on the show. And I was at home, but did you tell him that?
It was right before he came on. He came here and he was like, we were like, you want to be on a podcast? He's like, I want to be on a podcast.
Oh yeah, and then reached out to me. Yeah. Why don't we talk about? Because I mean, my plan, and I've been talking about this since the birth of the podcast, is going to Icon. And that's going to be happening next year. So we are going to unfortunately have to part ways, even though you will still be on the team and I'll be sending you everything, and our process will still be the same.
Yep. None of that's going to change.
But yeah, so me moving to LA, what's kind of your game plan when that happens for me, when I move out of this house?
Honestly, depending on whether I'm still here or not, if I'm still here, it's going to be full music still. Like that's all I'm going to be doing. But if I end up going back to my parents, I'll probably get back into real estate and still doing music. I'd just be doing exactly what I was doing before. So when I was doing real estate, I would work on music like later at night, and I was just able to pump out music all the time when I was doing that, because it was almost like I got to take a break from work to go to work. Whereas now it's like I'm working. Yeah. Just constantly. So now it's more of just like I'm going through a lot more struggles. I'm learning a lot more things. But then
applying that work mindset to your project instead of just like, oh, this is a fun thing I do on the side.
Yeah. So like I'd be going into it with a different mentality, but
still doing the same schedule.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then also your merch is going to be releasing soon.
Oh yeah.
I want to talk about how this year also all the people that we met in the Bay Area and the friends that you've made that I've also become friends with, and how the whole John Gang thing happened.
Okay, so John Gang started on Twitter. So I think I made a post, and then not even like 10 minutes later, all of my friends, give them a quick shout out: Aaron Rushdown, Quinlow, Trends, Bukovac, the one that started it all, Shrike. Oh, I'm gonna feel so bad because I'm leaving out names, but those are the first names that popped into my head. If I miss your name, you already know I love you. So I was at a friend's house, DB. There's another name I missed. I was at DB's house with Yucky Charms and all of those other names that I mentioned. And DB had these beanies made, and they just looked really funny when you wore them. So we all, like, there was like 7 of us that had those beanies on, and they were just like poking up, and they just looked hilarious. And then Bukavok took a video, recorded us all, and there's just like that one snippet of my head that they decided to screenshot, and they started putting it as everyone's profile picture. So they created that group chat and everyone changed their profile picture to a picture of me with that little beanie on. And they all started commenting on that Twitter post. Shout out Bukavok.
So monetizing your project next year.
Yes.
To a certain degree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely to a certain degree. And I'll be on Spotify next year too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like that'll be another source.
Income stream, yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I'm excited, man. Yeah, I know that's merch is something that I've been, as you guys know, been one of my main focuses going into next year too. So I think merch is great for any of you artists out there who have a following of any kind. Even if someone buys, 1 piece of merch, 2 pieces of merch, you're still making. It's better to make $1 than $0. So
it's
and if you monetize now, the more you grow and the more merch drops you have, the more money you're gonna make. It's just starting that revenue flow now. So that as you grow, it's already established. You wanted to get more into the technical side of things, and I know you've been bouncing around with the idea. You make a lot of heavier stuff, a lot of heavy dubstep, but you're also interested in other genres. How are you going to go about finding your sound and really sticking with one thing?
Damn. I don't think you're gonna like this answer.
Yeah.
Trial and error. But I mean, honestly, I'm just kind of going with the flow. I mean, that's kind of like my motto is just go with the flow. Like starting out in real estate and then just making that huge transition to come out to the Bay Area and just have no clue what's in store for me and just say fuck it and just do it. So that's kind of what I'm doing with my music. Like I'm just making what I like at the moment.
I think it's important for artists to experiment in different lanes too, because you may be able to pull something from making a trance song or a drum and bass song or a trap song and use it in whatever your sound ends up being. You can use different elements from different things that you learned by producing different genres. So
it's cool that you mentioned that, because I was actually working on a house track. I was going through like a rut and I couldn't write any dubstep, so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna start making some house.
Which is good for creative blocks.
It definitely helped me get out. And I want to bring it back to that point where I started working on a completely different genre, resampled some things, found some cool sounds, and anytime I make a cool sound, I'll throw it into my own little sample pack. So I'm always making my own samples and saving them. And I ended up using that in a dubstep track, and it sounded really fucking cool. So like bouncing around, you have to bounce around. You just have to stay in that flow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap up here in a minute, but before we do you have any questions for me?
Oh man, what don't I have to say? No, I mean, I'm just super grateful for you just in general. Like giving me the opportunity to move out to the Bay Area, something I've always wanted to do, even though it wasn't like that big of a deal. You're just like, hey, you want to move in? And
I got a room and an office for you.
I was like, sure, let's do it. But yeah, I'm just super grateful for you. We have very similar mindsets about things.
I think that's what bonded us so well.
100%. Yeah.
Because we won't go into it on camera, but off camera and stuff, and we're just in our everyday lives, we get into like some really like deep conversations about just like philosophies and like where we want to take certain things. And like, I mean, having this conversation now feels very similar to what going even levels deeper than this, but I think just our mindset and the way we think about things and the way that we we're both grind our asses off, both very hard workers, and I think that's what really, once I realized that about you, I think that's what really like made me realize that you would be a good addition. And I think it like made me realize that I could like trust you with the job that I gave you with this project. So
I also really appreciate you for that. Just trusting me, and just super grateful.
Sweet. Me too, man. Yeah. Love you, dude.
Love you too.
All right. Well, that's it. I just want to give you some background of what our project is, kind of the workflow behind it, who he is, because he's never on camera. But yeah, this is the guy behind the scenes that does all the pretty work to make my voice sound better than it is. So
hopefully I can do it with mine too. Now I gotta sit and edit mine.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna wrap up here. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, and hopefully maybe we'll make this like a tradition.
Yeah, I mean,
like every year.
We got this cool little setup here. Like, I really
this
like
took me 2 hours to make, so.
Oh, it's funny.
All right. Well, we're done.
Sweet.
Bye.